Paul, Craig, we've done this before. Retirements are just not the same. Boxers probably retire 5 or 6 times too many. But Tom Brady is now, and this does appear to be the real deal.
Well, he said it. He said he's retiring for real. The last time, he did all that, and then it was a month later, and a lot's happened in his life since then. So, yeah, I think he knows it would be tiresome if he did the, Evander Holyfield, George Foreman coming out of retirement to box, to play football again and again and again. Plus, the teams need to move on without, the Bucks need to move on. He's still under contract with them. Teams that would pursue him need to move on. So, yeah, it's time. I mean, there's fanfare about it, but last year was the whole rollout of it, and now he even acknowledged, you only get one of those. I already did that, so now I'm just going to say I'm done for real and moving on. So, good for Tom Brady, hanging him up. I think he made the wise choice. You see how it ended against the Cowboys. I know that probably there was part of him that didn't want to go out like that, but he also is smart enough to know that coming back a year older doesn't guarantee you're not going to go out like that again, or even worse. The rest of the teams in the division aren't going to stop trying to beat you. So it took them to the second to last week to clinch it this year. So you don't want to, I wouldn't attempt fate. Just go out on a high note.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could give credit to the person I saw that put out the joke about, imagine just walking the beach one morning and over there on the dunes, there's Tom Brady with a full-blown retirement announcement. What an odd scene that would be to, walk upon. But somebody probably did this morning. Just, boom, where are these cameras coming from? And, yeah, it's official, and it feels like it's final this time around, and it's very strange because I don't think we're probably all really grasping that because we've been here, done this already, and I think that that's on him as much as anything else was that we have had false starts, and so I think there's probably a bunch of people that are waiting for him to make a different announcement again in, a matter of time that we'll get to the spring, and all of a sudden it'll be, well, there's reported interest between Tom Brady and so-and-so. Somebody's going to get hurt, and his name's going to get thrown out there. So I don't know that as far as speculation goes, that will cease, even if this is actually the end. And it does feel like the end, like I said. But that topic will not die until we probably get through all of next year, and then people realize, okay, no, he's definitely not coming back. But, I mean, he hangs him up as the GOAT, although – there's already a guy who's still playing and is only a few years into his career, who we talked about at length on Monday, that's probably going to be right there nipping at his heels for the next decade or so, and probably smashing a lot of his records in Patrick Mahomes. And I'm sure he knows that, and I'm sure he just knows that, hey, at some point you just got to call it. I mean, at some point it is what it is. And, I mean, you saw there at the end of the Bucs season he didn't look happy. Nobody on that team really looked all that, thrilled. They weren't, following up on that great Super Bowl run, and the fact that they even accomplished that was pretty remarkable when you think about it.
It was.
And so, he was able to do that and go give Tampa a Super Bowl and go prove Belichick, wrong or whatever it was were his intentions to do. He didn't need New England to win a Super Bowl. He did that on his own. And so, I mean, he's the best ever. I know people throw Montana or whoever else's name you want to throw in there, and I just mentioned Mahomes. He's not there yet, but will certainly have the time to be there, and is certainly on the right track. But, yeah, I think it's a monumental day, monumental announcement, and it feels like it's sort of not that big of a deal, which is kind of strange.
All right, well, here is, if you didn't hear it, it's 50 seconds or so. He is just on a beach. You could tell he's just chilling. He's already announced his retirement before. We know that, in fact, last year. But this one, it's interesting. He does appear to be calm and yet melancholy, and then, of course, the emotions come in, and I think that is important to see. And so here's Tom Brady. This came out, no reports. There were no reports, none other than just speculation, but no reports that Tom Brady tomorrow is going to announce his retirement. I never saw any of that, just the speculation that this was, is it or not, and here it is.
I'll get to the point right away. I'm retiring for good. I know the process was a pretty big deal last time, so when I woke up this morning, I figured I'd just press record and let you guys know first. So I won't be long-winded. You only get one super emotional retirement essay, and I used mine up last year, so Really, thank you guys so much to every single one of you for supporting me, my family, my friends, my teammates, my competitors. I could go on forever. There's too many. Thank you guys for allowing me to live my absolute dream. I wouldn't change a thing. Love you all.
All right, so there's Tom Brady, just right there on the beach, decides to let it loose. And, you know, I think about all the guys that helped him and how many he helped become Super Bowl champions. I thought, and I know he was already the GOAT, and again, that's debatable. We can go all the way back to the 50s if you want. I get that. But the GOAT, when it comes to the Super Bowl era, Montana was always a part of that conversation among some others. But when he went to Tampa and won there, and I was fortunate to be at that game, but when he went to Tampa and won there, if there was ever a doubt, no matter how this past season ended, did that put the emphatic stamp, bam, confirmed on anything?
I think if you didn't already think a guy with 6 Super Bowls was the GOAT, and he got to 7 and you didn't think so, you're a douche. I mean, like, bottom line, you don't understand how sports works. You just don't like him. I mean, you've decided, I don't like Tom Brady, and I'm going to say negative things about him for whatever reason. I love that he said at the end, I wouldn't change a thing, which is great. And, like, I wonder if he'd be like, I would have changed one thing. Like, what one thing? Like,
yeah.
Dude, everything was awesome for you. And it's because, look, part of this is, and I think sometimes we leave this out when it comes to the greats at anything. Like, Michael Jordan outworked everybody. He was really talented, but he outworked everybody. Tiger Woods, really talented. He outworked everybody. Tom Brady, talented, overlooked, had the story about the 6 quarterbacks drafted in front of him, a 6th-round draft pick and all that, and went on to be the greatest because he outworked everybody. And he was always ahead of the game when it came to all that. So, yeah, if you can try to convince yourself that somebody else, especially in the salary cap era, everything that happened, look at the rosters in New England. The best roster they ever had, they actually didn't win a Super Bowl that year. When you had Randy Moss, that was the best roster the Patriots ever had, and they had some really good ones. But the way that they were able to win with some of those rosters and just know and have that edge, there's no question he's the GOAT.
Here are some graphics, Craig, and you can talk over them if you want, but there's some graphics about, just to put things in perspective, the 2 decades of him being a quarterback. And look how, no matter how he started out with a bang, with that upset win against the Rams and Kurt Warner and company, and Vinatieri hitting the kick in the field goal, look at the comparisons between the 2 decades that are almost eerily mirrored, with the Super Bowl titles, with the Super Bowl appearances, all of that, MVPs, Super Bowl MVPs, win percentage, all of that, division, all the way down, including, of course, the last Super Bowl. But that's a graphic just to kind of put things in perspective on Tom Brady.
Yeah, I mean, it says it all. I mean, I don't really need to rehash his number of Super Bowls and all that. It's right there on the screen, or was for you to read. And yeah, I mean, people put Jim Brown maybe in the greatest football player of all time conversation. He's another one. Joe Montana. I'm sure any other number of guys I'm not thinking of. And again, there's some guys right now playing, or at least one in Kansas City, that people already start to throw into that argument. But I mean, I think that's a very interesting one that Gary can leave right there. Is 7 Super Bowls. That's pretty insane, and I think that's basically impossible to argue with. And two franchises having done that, he's got more Super Bowls by himself than every team in the NFL, even the Patriots. I mean, that's the mic drop. That's all that needs to be said right there. Anybody wants to argue, give them that graphic and say, okay, then explain this, because that's all you need to know, is that he has more Super Bowls than every single team in the entire NFL, including the one who he gave 6 to. That's incredible.
Yeah, it is. Charles Haley had a bunch. Marv Fleming had a bunch, but
he did all that for the Patriots after the Cowboys had already won 5. Years after the Cowboys had won 5. They won 5.
That's a great point, because that's that drought we've talked about. The Cowboys and the Steelers were back and forth. The 49ers got involved in the most Super Bowls, and the Patriots had none None. At the time they won their first, you're right. He did all that after a bunch of them had most of the ones you saw in that graphic. That's crazy good. So there's Tom Brady. Chat room, good afternoon. The text line,